kind of felt a bit flat because we're going to have our first child and Dad won't be here to be part of that next story. I thought today we could talk about ways that our mum and dad show up in our lives and what it means to us.
I went and grabbed our stuff and did this like cheeky face and this like weird, creepy, weird, quirky walk. And one of my friends ran over to me and she goes, I couldn't let that go without telling you how much you just looked like your mum just then.
And I looked at this guy and I said to Calie, I was tripping out because I'm like, that is like a spitting image of Dad.
Mannerisms, skin color, hair, like sunglasses, shoes, you name it. And I catch myself going, oh my gosh, that was mum. And then I laugh even more because her laugh was contagious. Welcome back to another episode of Good Grief.
It's great to have you with us.
Yeah.
And if you were here just before we hit play or record, this mama is definitely pregnant.
I'm 100% pregnant. 15 weeks.
Yeah, I thought a snack, ham and gherkins were enough.
No, needed some crackers too.
So this episode is brought to you by Eaton.
Eaton from Aldi.
Which I've never heard of.
No, neither. What a name for a cracker. But they've been helpful. Thank you, Eaton.
Has it hit the spot?
It has.
All right. So I guess my thoughts over the weekend probably led to this episode. And I was out behind us here. We're in our living room behind us. We've got a backyard area. And I was cleaning that up and thinking about our bub on the way. And, you know, that bub would be out here, you know, playing at some point in the future. And during that thought process, I kind of felt a bit flat because then I reflected on how we're going to have our first child and Dad won't be here to witness that and to be part of that, you know, next story.
Yeah.
And so I felt a bit flat. And I shared that with you. And then I also shared it in our Facebook group just as like a vulnerable, real moment. This is how I'm feeling because of this. And sort of thinking about some of those future events. I was so loved and supported by everyone in the group. So thank you to everyone that jumped on that.
Yeah, everyone did jump on that.
And sharing your own thoughts. But it sort of led me to thinking, what are some of those things that pop up and remind us of our loved one? And what are some of the things that we carry that like bring us closer and make us feel close to them?
And how do they show up?
Yeah. And so today we've dropped that question into the Facebook group as to how does your loved one show up in your life?
We're getting all sorts of things.
Yeah. What are some of the responses been?
The one that sticks out to me is electricity. So maybe they were an electrician. We're not sure yet. We'll find out.
Yeah, that's our guess.
Yep. Butterflies, birds.
Yeah, there's been bunnies, coins, songs.
Yeah. Feathers. Yeah.
Some really interesting ones. So if you're not in the Facebook group yet, come jump into some of these conversations with us.
Come join us.
Yeah, it's really insightful and just things I would have never thought of. But then also things that I go, oh yeah, that's me as well.
And it's just helpful hearing other people's stories and realizing you're not alone.
So I thought today we could talk about ways that our mum and dad show up in our lives. And what it means to us. What do you reckon?
Yeah. So?
Okay.
What does it mean for you?
Well, a couple of stories come to mind. So I think there are loads of things I could list off and maybe I'll jump into a few, but a couple of the things that come to mind. One, most recently, we were down in Sydney on a family holiday, which we've spoken about in previous episodes.
Yes.
We climbed the Harbour
Bridge.
And we were sitting around one morning over breakfast and my mum's there and we're there and my brother and sister-in-law. We're all there having breakfast and I'm just having a conversation with mum and I don't know how this conversation came up.
I don't know how that came up.
It's really a weird one, so don't judge me, everyone listening. But I somehow got onto telling mum about when Calie and I hop into bed, don't worry, it's PG, when I like pull back the covers to get into bed, I like I don't know. I wipe like the bed on my side. I like give it a dust for some reason. And maybe you might be laughing like Calie is. It's okay. You can laugh at me. That's all
Every
right.
night I laugh, guys. I look at him and I'm, what are you doing?
And I know no one else is as weird as me, so I'm a weirdo. But like,
But you were telling your mum about this.
I was, and she goes, like, her face just sort of said it all, and I was kind of like, what? And she said, your father used to do that every time he got into bed. And
That's wild.
Yeah.
She's never told you that, hey?
No, and I never sat there watching him get into bed every night.
Yeah, that's right.
For all my years. And I was blown away. I was just like, how could I have inherited such a weird trait that, I don't know, if this is normal, please make me feel normal and leave that in a comment or drop that somewhere and let me know. But I don't feel it's normal. Okay. And so
I've never seen it before.
I don't know how I picked that up.
Not that I watch too many people get into bed, but
Totally. I mean, people in the movies don't do that in TV shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as much as like, I think it's just hilarious, it makes me feel close to Dad in a way.
It was special to hear that, wasn't it?
It totally was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother was like, what are you guys talking about? And he was weirded out, but he was like, oh, that's interesting. And then we started talking about traits and mannerisms and gestures and all sorts of things. It led to a pretty cool, fun conversation.
Speaking of traits and gestures, I've got two of my really good friends who come to church with us, and they knew my mum. They knew my mum well, and yeah, we're there through it all. And this one time at church was a couple of months ago now. We were. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I 100% know what you're talking about.
We normally have the same spot, the front row on the left, but for some reason we went to go move to the front row in the middle, and worship had already started, and my friends were sitting behind us, and so Ryan moved, and so I went and grabbed our stuff and did this like cheeky face and this like weird creepy weird quirky walk across to the other
Are you
aisle.
saying your mum was creepy?
It was just like a cheeky like kind of thing. I can't even remember exactly how I did it. And then I kept getting into the worship, and one of my friends ran over to me and she goes, I couldn't let that go without telling you how much you just looked like your mum just then.
Yeah, so good.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally did.
And if you're listening on the podcast and you want to see what that looks like, jump onto YouTube and see Calie's creepy mum walk.
That was not a good reenactment,
I think
I'll give you something to think about.
I think cheeky is a better word than creepy. You said creepy.
I did say creepy,
Cheeky.
but it was more cheeky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one because I'd moved first, but
Yeah.
I love experiencing some of the things that come out in you that were totally your mum, and it's such a cool way for me to get to know her more.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's weird, like, because I want to say her name more, Claudette, and I want to say my dad's name more, Chris, but we don't say their names because it's just mum and dad to us. So for everybody
you say
else,
your dad or your mum, but
my dad's Chris, your mum's Claudette.
yeah.
I love that one.
Oh, and someone else, one of our followers, her mum was also named Claudette. I couldn't believe it. Like, it's not a popular name. My mum's French, and I was like, is your mum French too? And she's not, but it's just such a coincidence. I was like, what?
And I mean,
are the chances?
isn't that special in itself?
Yeah.
That just someone having the same name just is so special.
So yeah, this is why we like to reach out to you all. It's just cool hearing your stories and all the little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, can you remember when we were on a holiday up in North Queensland?
Yes. Which one?
We were in Cairns.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd taken a holiday in coming up to like their hottest season. And if you visit Cairns in Australia, it's in the northern part of Queensland, which is where we live. And there's a phenomenal rail and train that runs up the mountain and around a gorge and a huge waterfall, and you pass
up to Coranda.
Yeah, you pass multiple waterfalls, and there's a beautiful spot to stop up the top with markets, and we learned about bees and butterflies and all sorts of things up there. Yeah. But on that trip specifically, we were in a certain everyone's in carriages on this train. And you stop at multiple points to take in the view and to hop off.
Yeah, you're allowed to get out and take photos.
Yeah. And at one of the stops, we're looking at the waterfalls, and I see this guy dressed in a white button-up linen shirt.
I thought it was a polo because I thought it did have a car logo.
Right.
Yeah, that's what made it so distinct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might even have a photo. We could dig
I
that
think
up.
we definitely do.
And I looked at this guy and I said to Calie, that looks like I was tripping out because I'm like, that is like a spitting image of Dad. And from the side and the back, I was like, almost like that is my dad right there.
Yeah.
In the flesh.
Mannerisms, skin color, hair, like sunglasses.
Yeah.
Shoes, you name it. He was the last one on the train as well.
And not only looked like him, he was carrying a video camera and like videoing and photoing everything, which was my dad to a T.
To a T.
Like everyone that knows Dad knows that he always had a camera and was always behind the camera, right? So much so that when he died, we had like 1,000 VHS tapes, of our life that he'd filmed that we had to sort through. And so we see this guy, and I'm like, I almost just want to run up and hug him, but we sort of just kept our distance and watched
him and observed and took some sneaky photos.
Everything was so similar. He was the last one and late onto the train. It nearly took off without him because he was stuck there taking photos and videoing the view.
Which would have been your dad.
That was my dad. And so, yeah, we came down the mountain on this train and ended up at the station. And the last, sighting that I remember was him, hopping off the train and walking out of the station. But man, it was special. It was just like this moment in time where for a second he was still here with us. And it was cool for you to experience that because you've only seen photo and video.
Yeah.
And to kind of, you go, wow, that really feels like what I've experienced. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have thought it was your dad too.
I've only had one other time
with
a guy in the supermarket, in like where we used to live in our local area, and Mum and my brother had seen him as well at different times, and we were kind of like, don't know who this guy is, but from a glance, kind of like Dad.
So another one for me is I have many laughs. I actually did one earlier when I was laughing about the creepy walk, and I was like, there it is. My laughs are getting more and more like my mum.
Totally.
And I catch myself going, oh my gosh, that was Mum. And then I laugh even more because her laugh was contagious. But
and even I can distinguish the different laughs.
From the Calie you knew to the Claudette sneaking laugh coming in. Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? Are you happy about that? Are you?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of her more. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, all the times we laughed.
Are there any mannerisms that you have of mums that you don't like?
Now you got me. Not as yet.
Okay.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I'd answer the same.
Yeah.
That I know of, yeah. I mean, each one feels special.
Mum had a lot of mannerisms.
Totally.
She was a character.
One of them that I know that does come out in you.
Yes.
Is that she would try and say, different quotes or sayings
or puns
and things, and they just wouldn't come out as their...
Because English was Mum's second language.
Yeah. So
it is my first, but
so she'd...
Occasionally, try to put two different ones together.
And everyone kind of looks at you with like one eye like closed and
they'll be like, oh, that's not it, is it? What is it? Yeah. Or I'll correct myself.
Yeah. So
yeah, Mum was classic at that. Dad reckons he could write a whole book on Mum's isms and sayings that were just her own because she was trying to say one thing but didn't quite come out or translate right. Totally. But on mannerisms, I just have to say, our nephew Matteo.
Oh yeah.
He has all the faces and Mum had all the faces. He has just so inherited that from her. And it's just so cute and so funny to see.
Yeah, he's the cutest.
Yeah. And when he was little, my aunt and uncle just told us this when we saw them a couple of weeks ago. When we announced we were pregnant to them, we were talking about all the stories, and they told us that when he was around 2, or, probably between 1.5, 2.5, when he couldn't quite speak properly, when they would come and visit, he would walk in the door, and my auntie has like a buffet with all family photos and pictures of us and everything, and she's got this one beautiful frame with a picture of Mum in it. And he would walk in the door, before he did anything else, he would kneel down and he would just start like babbling to Mum's picture.
Chatting away.
Just chat away for a couple of minutes.
And he couldn't talk at this point. So
it was just babble. It was just,
But he'd be glued to her.
Yeah.
For some reason, without understanding who his grandmother is. And
like, obviously he'd seen photos of her, so he recognized her, but whether he actually knew this is my grandma,
totally,
that's unknown. But he would do it often. Every time he came for that period of before speaking, cool. He would go and talk to her.
Yeah,
which I just thought was so special. I think I teared up. I was like, that is so cool.
I can't wait to see how Bub turns out for us and what little things come out.
Imagine if they're half Chris, half Claudette. That would be wild. That would be quite a character.
Yeah.
We'll have our hands full.
Yeah. That is so special.
Yeah.
I guess on the thought of kids, one for me is like, Dad always loved kids, right? And they would love him. He could just make them laugh. He'd make sounds and stupid faces and all sorts of things. And I definitely feel that's something that I've inherited. Like I love kids as well, and have waited, for us to have our own. But I feel like him in a sense when I pick kids up and wrestle them and hug them and so forth, friends, kids and family and so forth. And so I think that's one of the traits that's come out, as I've grown older, how Dad was around kids. And that's what excites me so much about being a dad as well.
Yeah.
And getting to experience that for myself.
Totally. Yeah.
What else have you got?
What else have I got? Birds. Mum would talk to birds and they would talk back to her. So especially when we were going up to my auntie's house at Sunshine Coast, a couple of hours away, and we'd stay there. She always had, birds around, and when we were going up regularly for a treatment, these same birds or the same bird would be around and Mum would talk to it, and it still comes back.
Yeah, what's the type of bird? Wagtail.
The willy wagtail?
Yeah. Because when we go on our walks.
Yeah, we've seen one, hey?
Yeah, and they'll sing to us and so forth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I feel, they come and sing to me and stuff too.
That's super special.
Yeah, it is. And I even mentioned that at Mum's funeral. I said that
she was
a celebration. Yeah, she was. She was a bird whisperer, and it was very cool to see. And it's cool when they come back. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know someone else, in the group posted about birds and butterflies and yeah.
That definitely wasn't my dad. Maybe more Mum, right?
Yeah.
She's a bird
Your mum
whisperer.
is a bird whisperer.
Our mums would have got along.
Yeah. So that also is special, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
That your mum loves birds, and so when I'm out there with her and the birds are around.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it does make me feel like,
Oh, that's so cool. So there's this one bird that has been visiting Mum since Dad died it's now been 11 years, just in the wild. It's a type of parrot here in Australia called a lorikeet, and this lorikeet came and visited and has not left every single day without a shadow of a doubt. It's there to greet Mum when she wakes up and
to be fed.
To be fed, yes. And it's become very needy of her.
She's actually created a monster out of this bird. He's very needy.
No, but he sits on her head.
Yeah.
He'll feed out of her hand. Just absolutely wild.
Yeah. He'll come and like, if she's not out there at the right time, he'll come and
he'll peck on the window.
He'll peck on the windows and jump from window to window and hey,
it's pretty special.
Hey. Yeah.
And so I feel like that bird has been a godsend. Like I feel literally God sent that bird
to help heal her.
Yeah, and to be a friend to Mum.
Yeah.
And just to walk that road, with her and someone that she could talk to, that wouldn't say the wrong things or...
I would just love her.
Totally. Oh. All right.
Moving on.
Before I just...
My eyes are sweating.
Break down and sob here. One of the others for me is just music. Anything Elvis was my dad.
Yes, it was.
And so Elvis is just such a... And I love Elvis personally, his music as well. And so songs, movies...
Elvis reminds me of your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And I got to go visit, Elvis's home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
It was very cool. And it was a special place. But yeah, songs, definitely one.
Yep.
Can put them on to feel joy, or also if I need to cry, I can put those on if I want to feel close to Dad.
Yeah, particular artists. Yep. I'm trying to track down that song that I sang at Mum's celebration.
Yeah, we know it was Carrie Job.
Yep.
We just don't know the name.
No. My auntie's going to try and find me the recording so I can.
Isn't it funny? I mean,
lyrics.
it's maybe just a grief brain moment.
Totally.
And you don't need to beat yourself up. On the weekend, we were with some friends at church, and my friend introduced me to his sister and asked me just to explain a bit of our story. And I just blurted out that, my mum died and your dad died. And he was looking at me like, that is... He's like, he knows my dad died and your mum died, not the other way around. And it just came out of my mouth.
And so he was having a trip out, like...
And he's freaking out. He's like... My whole world has been a lie right now. Have I been getting this wrong the whole time? He's like,
am I such a bad friend?
He's like, I've listened to their podcast and maybe they've been telling each other stories this whole time, but not their own. And he's like, and he looked at me and I was like, what did I say? He's like, you mean your dad? And I was like, did I say my mum? It was so weird. So total grief.
He's like, I've met your mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% grief brain.
Wow.
Ah.
We were also at a friend's 30th on the weekend and I hugged her and I went, you're wearing Chanel perfume. And she's like, yeah, I am. And I didn't tell Ryan at the time, but that was a perfume my mum wore. And so whenever I smell it, it's so distinct to me. Like I could smell it anywhere. Someone could just walk past me and there it is. Chanel Mademoiselle.
Mademoiselle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so... I know I had some somewhere, but I found a little tester of it, and I sprayed some on before. But
yeah, that is so cool. I wish my nose was that accurate and strong.
Yeah, we always wore different Chanels, so it's good that this is her scent and not mine. So yeah, it's cool. Sometimes I'll walk past in the department store. I'll walk past the Chanel counter, and I'll just have a spray it on a little card and take it with me.
I love that.
So I can smell her. Yeah.
I reckon everyone's done that at some point. Take a little spray of a cologne or a perfume.
For sure.
Yeah. Any others that we've got?
I actually had a dream the other week. I don't have too many dreams of my mum. You dream way more often of your dad.
Yep, I can tell everybody I'm up to dream 84 in 11 years.
Wow.
And the reason why I know that is because I started taking a journal every time I dreamt, and this might be helpful to somebody listening, is just to create a journal. It's just in my phone, just on notes, and I wrote like first dream and then the date, and I'm up to 84th dream, And
I might be in the 20s.
Put down some things. And it's crazy to look back. I don't read over it much, but it's crazy just to note those things down. It's been really helpful and really healing as well.
So I think it was after we did our podcast that's coming out. This is a bit of Inception. I'm telling you about it now, but it'll be out by the time you hear this.
Yeah.
Our last episode on guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, you know, like wishing that we'd said more or did more, or if we only had, you know, another day, another moment with them to, you know, say these things or do these things. And so my dream was that I actually did get a second chance with Mum. I actually did get, and I actually thought in my head like, oh wow, you're back. I get to ask you things. I get to do things.
That's amazing.
It was so cool. And so she's sitting there next to me and we're chatting away or whatever. And I look into her eyes, and I mean, Mum had brown eyes, but her eyes were green in this dream. And I was like, Mum, your eyes are green. And she's like, yeah. And I was as if
that's the colour that they
as if like,
are.
Yeah, why are you asking me that? And I was like, no, I'm sure they were brown. And she's like, Calie, like, you know, silly, like, how do you not know this kind of thing? But I've always, since I was like a teenager, I've always loved like brown skin and green eyes. And so I don't know if that was God talking to me.
Well, you got the brown skin with me.
I got the brown skin. But I've always been like, God, how can you make the green eyes come through in the genes of our families? Your mum has blue. Yep. My dad has hazel. But Mum had brown eyes. But in this dream, she had green. But I was like, you've got green eyes. So I was thinking, maybe my kid will have green eyes. So, and then the dream like pretty much like ended there.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. Like there was way more to the dream, but that was like the snippet that stood out to me was that I was like, you're here. I get to talk to you again. And
that's like
she wasn't sick or anything.
Sure. Yeah, that's like a jackpot dream. It's like the ultimate dream. You know, you don't get them often where you actually get to express things that are true to you and mean something, and they respond, you know. Often out of all the dreams that I've listed, it's like there's not many of those. And most of them I'm out of control, or it's not the way I pictured things or enjoyed. So
I need to write this
jealous.
down. I know.
It's a good one. Yeah, write it down.
I need to write that down.
This could be the start of your dream journal.
Yes.
There's so many things.
So special.
I've got stuff written down on my hand, but these ones have been, probably the keys. And it's different for everybody.
Totally.
And so, you know, if you're listening in and you're not in our Facebook Good Grief support group just yet, this is your invitation.
Yeah.
Come and hang out with us. We would love to learn more about you and your loved ones.
We'd love you to join our family.
Yeah. It's a group, but we call it a family.
Yeah.
The conversation is rocking in there, and, you know, people are sharing from their heart, and others are there to support, to catch you, and to love you as well.
Yeah.
And so this conversation is happening right now in the group. You can totally come and be a part of that, and we would love to have you with us.
Yeah, it's so kind and encouraging. It's
so
beautiful.
hopefully this chat's been helpful, and we'd love to know from you. What are some of the ways that your loved ones show up?
Let us know.
But until next time, big love from both of us, and we'll speak soon.
Ciao.
Bye for now.